certain projects that you're doing, like pieces or stories that you wanted to tell. Like if Mira had more time in his life, he could finish Berserk himself.
Yeah, but the question is would that nigga? Like let's be real. Like let's look at his track record in between the hiatuses and everything else that went on in Berserk. Because I found out that he did a bunch of other comics like while we were stuck on that fucking whale, right? Not that I'm like complaining or anything like that, because I didn't read them. I don't know the quality of them or anything like that. But it's one of those things where like I think that for some people, you give them infinite time. It doesn't matter how much time that they actually have. They will probably never finish the thing that they set out to finish. And I think that he's like one of those people. For me personally, I don't know what kind of person that I actually am because I don't know what kind of stories or anything like that I would actually wish to tell, that I would wish to relieve from myself and give them to other people, that I'm not already just fucking terrified of sharing with others. Like, because I think that that's honestly what stops me from making a comic. Like everybody's like, "Oh man, you should make a comic," and I'm like, you have to feel some sort of like self importance that the story that you have to tell that story this particular way. And I don't think that I myself have that in me because I'm too fucking terrified to tell people that. like because I was thinking about some of the stuff that I already have, and like I could tell, like, yeah, sure, I could tell these stories, but it's like, what right do I have as the person that I am to tell this story and think that this is gonna go over well, right? It's like there's always gonna be issues with some things, or you speaking from some place that's not your place to speak from. And that's why sometimes like I don't think that some of the stories that I would like to tell are mine to tell. Like
Mm.
one of my characters, the guy with the light bulb head, his story is not even his own story. It's actually about the girl who's next to him, but it's what like as a black dude, I don't get to tell a story about a young woman, because that's not my experience. I can't really write from that. Like, how do I know this, that, or the other? There's plenty of things that I'm always going to miss because that's not my experience. But my experience would be more or less like, how would I deal with trying to help this person on their own path, right? But it's like really the story that I'm the main focus of this, because again, the guy with the light bulb head, his stuff is already done, right? Like his story starts at finished, like, because there's already something that he has to do. He knows what he's gonna do. He just doesn't necessarily want to do it because also there's this person next to him who he needs to help, right? So it's not his story. It's not his story at all. But I like kind of need a co-writer to help me figure out what this other character is and what her journey is actually supposed to be. But I can't tell that story until I have that, because she's so much more important than he actually is. So
That
I
makes sense.
think that that's some of the stuff that I usually run into. It's not so much that like I don't have stories that I would like to tell. It's more or less that I realize that, especially as I'm getting older, that everything is not about me. And so I feel like a lot of the main characters that I do tend to write, they're what happens to them is not necessarily it's not happening to them specifically. It's like the story sort of revolves around them. Yes, they're central to the story. Without it, the thing would not move forward. But ultimately, the stories are about the other people who are around them and how they tend to help those people out. And so I think that that's part of the reason why, like, for me, that question is really difficult to answer, because I haven't met those people where I can be like, okay, well, I'm gonna base this character on this person, right? So
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That makes sense, and that's understandable. Um,
it's a little sad too,
I
because I'm like, damn, I'm never a main character, even in my own
well,
life.
I just I think it's important that we draw from life experience and the people around us, and then you're referring to you haven't met those types of people who can give you a reference point of how to tell these stories. And I agree with that. And I think that to me, if I was writing a story and I didn't know what the character was about, I would be doing this character a disservice. I think more so for the audience. Like the audience would just be like, what is this about? I don't think most people, unless it's a serious issue, like a serious issue, or very specific to a serious issue, like what is it for a woman in a workforce? And I'm trying to tell that story without any reference point, then people are going to come after my head. But if I'm coming from a place of honesty about a character, I don't think it matters um, the if I'm coming from honesty of what it's supposed to be, if I'm not trying to be so objective about whether it's like race or gender, like for example, The Last of Us, um, when when the director wrote that movie or the game, he said that these characters could be swapped with any gender and any race because the central focus of this story is the relationship between these two characters. And as long as he's coming from a place of honesty and his experience with uh, trauma bonding or fatherhood or surrogate daughters and things like that, then he can tell that narrative with anybody. But if it was something else, like if it was about like the experiences of what it's like to be black and blah blah blah, then yes, that's an issue for sure. So for me, I'm when I write stories, I'm trying to make sure that I'm coming from a place that I understand. And if I don't understand, I would want to be honest as possible and seek and ask questions from other people and talk to other people because I'm genuinely curious about what it is that they have to say and learn from that. One of the things that I'm really passionate about is like again like kids growing up in these like terrible conditions. Um, I'm really passionate about that stuff, and I have a lot of friends who all relate to each other, especially friends who's been to prison or who's lost friends, who's been killed. And these are stories that you always hear in like movies and books. But if I can write a story that's honest to that, then I'm confident that I can write that. But yes, to what you're saying, if I'm writing about a character that I have no point in writing about, I would need a reference point of somebody who's been through those experiences. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just over here sitting like, damn, I can't write this story because I feel like a little bitch. A lot to be getting off my chest right here. You know what I'm saying, man? You know, I
You know
ain't got
what?
no I ain't got no small child following me around being like, hey yo, what's good? You know?
Yeah, I think well, and you can draw just from like inspiration and see how it flows. See how it flows. It's no one has to read it, you know? It could just be for you, and then maybe you can show it to somebody and be like, "What do you think about this? How does it make you feel about reading about this?" And then they can give you their honest feedback. It's like, "Well, I feel like this character,
Yeah,
this
see,
wouldn't
that's the rough part about fucking about writing anything, is that at some point you gotta share that shit because you're really not gonna know whether it's any good or not until you share it with somebody, and then they're gonna tell you. But the entire time you just kind of sitting there going, "Ooh, I just bared my soul to this person. I don't know if that was a good idea." And no, I do not. So no, mm.
It's okay. I think as if you're being honest with yourself and you're just trying to do the best you can with the story, I don't think people are going to oust you for that. If anything, because of your years of living on this earth and you dealing with people, if you write a story about a particular topic or subject, not everybody's going to agree with it, but people are going to relate to you. Like they feel connected to you because those were your experiences. Or maybe it's not even your experience. Maybe it's just what you know of. And people go, I know what that is like. I like this. It's funny or it's scary or it's sad. Like I relate to this. Like it's not just you that you're alone.
Yeah, that's why I feel like, because a lot of stuff that I do want to write is in particular is drama, um, and drama tends to be very character driven. So you have to like actually, you have to know the characters. You have to know kind of what they want, the kind of persons that they will be. by the end of everything, and that shit is just like it's hard to get it, make it good, and make it compelling. But if you wanted me to write like a dumb comedy about something, like I got that in spades, right? But it's like the the stories that I do want to tell tend to be a little bit more dramatic, and I think that it just speaks to me more as a person. Like, I just be dramatic for no fucking reason. Like I
Because
can't
you
help it.
care, man.
You know, I be fucking I be cussing for no reason. Like
Because you
that
care.
you gotta fucking add some flavor to your speech. You know what I'm saying? You gotta pepper that shit up,
Yeah.
right? But that's the reason why, like, I think for me personally, it's like when everybody's like, oh man, you should write a comedy, you should do this, you should do that. It's like I could, man, but again, I'm a little bitch out here with my feelings. I don't know about y'all, but like if you want me to write something funny about like, you know, a fairy tale or anything like that, I could do that. I could do it in spades. I can make you feel some kind of way in all parts of this. But if you wanted me to tell you the story that I actually wanted to write, like I'd be sitting there like I don't really particularly want you to read this. I'll be very honest with you, cause this shit kind of personal, and
Right.
I don't want to share it with you.
That's fair. That's fair. I think despite what people who might have different opposing views on your perspective on things might have, it's still something that has a right to exist. Um, and it's because it's you. Um,
I mean, you know, you talk to some people in this country and they don't think that I have any right to exist.
yeah, well, I mean, that's the thing, right? Like that's more of the reason to do it. It's like if people have a different opinion about something, it's like, all right, dude, cool. Go ahead, go live your life. I don't care. It is about I think at the end of the day, like you put something out there. In the beginning, it's about you and what you want to create. But once you put it out, it's just out there. Um, I I've learned that if I'm going to write something, that I would have to put my shoes in that person. Even if it's, I would never put myself in a scenario. I would have to ask myself, how would I feel if I was put in this scenario, and what would I do? What are the possible outcomes of like of what I would do? I might never do this, but this people like her or this other dude, they might take the complete opposite direction, and I need to empathize with that and be willing to forego my ego in service for them. And if I can put myself in in people's shoes and perspective, then I'm okay with like where this is going. I'm okay where the direction that the story is taking. It might flop, but at least I was honest, and I can learn from it the next time I write something. Um,
Yeah, see that's a whole lot of courage that I just ain't got. Mm-mm. I don't got it in me.
it's because you care. It's because like it's because you're passionate, man. It's,
I do not.
you
I do not got it. No, no, no. I think in this case it's because I'm a bitch, and
no,
I'm not afraid to admit that one. Like
mm,
I'm a little old bitch about this.
no. It's because you. I think you just want to make sure that you're doing it justice. You're not missing any marks and damaging other people potentially.